Tom Thibodeau said you have to win games different ways, and that's exactly what the Knicks did Monday night with their 124 to 118 comeback win against the Rockets. So let's bring in my guy, Jonathan Macri of Knicks Film School, to talk about how they were able to get this done without OG. J Mac, what's going on, my man?
What's going on, Brandon? Yeah, I'm still flying high off of that win. It's funny because for all the success that this team has had this season, I think there is a not insignificant portion of the fan base that has been waiting for a win like this,
Yeah.
a win that I think they could look at and feel like, you know what? This is the sort of win that last year's team would have gotten. And that team last year inspired people for so many different reasons. And this year, obviously, they've had a lot of success, great offense, the whole thing. And even with their success over the last week or so,
Yeah.
I don't know that they've had a victory quite like last night, which is why I'm very excited to talk to you about it.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those go New York, go moments.
You know it.
Down 11 going into
Yep.
the fourth quarter. They turned on the juice, outscored the Rockets 46 to 29. And again, that's without OG. Talk to me about the win, J Mac. Break it down.
Yeah, and it wasn't just down 11 to any team. When you're down 11 to a team like the Rockets, it feels like you're down by 21 or 31 because their defense and the activity level and the energy and the speed that they bring to basically every possession, it puts so much pressure on you. I mean, look, the easy answer is to talk about Jalen Brunson and what he did individually. I think though the fourth quarter was an example of a couple of things. For one, you know, Carl Anthony Towns did not have his best game. He's in a bit of a tough stretch, but when he is out on the court, and you saw it a couple times in the fourth quarter, in particular a possession where he was matched up with Dylan Brooks, took him into the post, got an and one, finally gave the Knicks the lead. Him being out there just does so much for the spacing. And then Mikal Bridges' addition to this team, he's had a down, then up, then down, and now back up again year for them to have that secondary scoring option as a guy you could hand it to, and he doesn't create offense in the same way that Jalen Brunson does. Nobody does. But just as a threat to put the ball on the floor and make something happen, to say nothing of his shooting, and then I also got to shout out my guy Josh Hart. I love Josh Hart as
Yeah.
much as anyone. He's in a bit of a shooting slump right now, but when you're playing again a team like the Rockets that has that level of tenacity, to have Hart out there to turn every potential transition opportunity into an actual transition opportunity. And that's the best way to beat a defense like that is to get out and run and get a couple easy baskets, which they did get a few of to get them to 46 points in that fourth quarter.
Man, I love the way you broke that down because, and I mean, go even deeper on this one, J Mac, because last year when they lost OG, I think you
Yep.
agree with me. This team had absolutely no identity outside of feeding the ball to Jalen Brunson. So, two-part question, man. What's different this year? And does the fact that they were able to beat a quality squad like the Rockets without OG and with Cat kind of struggling, does that put them in the contender conversation or back
Yeah,
into the contender conversation?
sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, the difference is Towns is here. He was not here last year. Isaiah Hartenstein was a fundamental part of that post Randall, kind of post OG offense in February, March, and April. Hardenstein's a very gifted player. He's not Carl Anthony Towns, and even a slumping Towns, you see the space that he opens up on the floor, and then when you put, an extra shooter out there, obviously Tibbs started the game with Precious, went with more size, a little bit more defensive tenacity. Again, facing a big physical, nasty team like the Rockets, you kind of understood that. But then when it came down to the fourth quarter, and he knew, look, buckets are at a premium right now. We need to. The only way we're going to beat this team is if we're going to outscore them. You saw Deuce come in, so I don't think last year's team had quite the option to go with this level of offensive versatility. Oftentimes last year, they had no choice but to play two, even three non-floor spacers, if you kind of consider Hart in that category. And so it, like you said, it was like all Brunson all the time. Last night, fourth quarter, it was again a lot of Brunson, but the ability for them to make put him in positions where, look, it's never easy against Houston. You still have to be able to beat these very talented individual defenders, but at least giving him an opportunity to put him into a position to have a greater chance of success. Are they contenders? I kind of been starting to feel that way over the last 2 weeks, regardless of last night. I think they, again, needed a win like this tooth and nail down the stretch, kind of a nip and tuck game, back and forth, come from behind against a big time defense. Other than a big victory over like a Boston or an Oklahoma City, or if you want to put Cleveland in there, I'm not sure what other signs we're waiting for. I think they've shown us a lot already.
Yeah, complete team win. I mean, if you look at the box score here, obviously JB 42, 6 and 10. We talked about how Karl Anthony Towns and Josh Hart kind of struggled, but Cat was able to add 22. Josh Hart 19, Mikal Bridges 22.
Yeah.
I mean, this team is looking well-rounded per se. I mean, outside of the bench. And you mentioned that fourth quarter that Jalen Brunson was able to put together. That got this man MVP chance at the Garden last night. So do you think this man has a legitimate shot to win the MVP award this year?
Man, I'd love to be able to sit here and tell you he has a chance to actually win it. With the season that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is having for an Oklahoma City team that is just, running roughshod over the league, and with Nikola Jokic doing kind of Nikola Jokic stuff again, it feels like it's a two-man race. But after that, I would not put it out of the realm of possibility that Brunson could get it certainly into that top five and maybe into that third or fourth position, which, like, look, Carmelo Anthony finished third in MVP voting during the 2012-13 season. That's the highest Nick or any Nick has finished in MVP since Bernard King, when Bernard King finished second in the 80s. So this kind of thing, a Nick getting into that lofty territory, does not happen very often. So even if he may not be able to win it, if he could just get in top three, top four, I mean, what a massive achievement that would be, I think, for him coming off of course, a fifth place finish last year.
Yeah, even if he doesn't get that MVP, this man is slowly climbing up the ranks, is becoming a Knicks legend. Last night, he passed Julius Randle for fifth most 30-point games with 70. He also passed Carmelo Anthony for third most 40-point games with 17. And that's his first career 40 and 10 game. My producer told me I had to ask you, what are your thoughts on Brunson hitting that pull-up three like Melo did against the Bulls years back? Do you think that will go down as his classic MSG moment?
I think because he's had some big time playoff performances, he has set the bar so high. And again, and this is just me personally, but his game, the day he found out that he was going to be an all-star last year, played the Indiana Pacers, and it was where we got the Jalen Brunson born to play basketball from Mike Breen. That's always going to be my number one regular season moment, I think, probably for JB. But I think if you're doing a top five, I think last night's fourth quarter, and in particular that 3-point shot to give them a 4-point lead, and for the first time all night make you feel like, hey, they may actually win this game. I think that's in the top five. And again, that's saying a lot, because he has a lot of those moments. He's had game winners this year. He had a game-winning 3-point field goal against the Nets earlier this year. Obviously, they're not a great opponent, but he is building a resume that I think is reminding a lot of Knicks fans. Knicks fans have been around for a while. Go back past Melo. Go past Ewing. But of those championship years, because Clyde Frazier, had this reputation of being a guy who always came up big in the big moment. That's the guy when I think about where Jalen Brunson could go and where he could wind up in the annals of franchise history. I think the ceiling is that high for him at this point.
Much respect to JB and what he's been able to do on that court, man. But let's look ahead now, because we got the trade deadline coming up Thursday, 3 p.m. Go New York. Go New York is going. The Knicks are 33 and 17. So if you're Leon Rose, and I got my Robinhood app out here so I can talk investments, are you bullish or are you bearish at the trade deadline? And if so, who would you want to go after?
So the Knicks, as a result of mostly it's the trade for Mikal Bridges, but they also sent out what looks like it's going to be a decent pick in the Cat trade. They're a little asset poor at the moment. They have a couple of swaps that they could trade away in 26 and 30. They have a kind of a fake Washington first that's probably going to convert into two pretty good second rounders. I would be surprised if they expended any serious draft capital to make a move at this deadline, just because for a variety of different reasons involving, what salary they would have to send out, their constrictions as far as the second apron. I don't know if that trade is going to be out there. That said, we've heard a lot of reporting, including from Ian Begley just a little while ago, that he's been consistent with this. If they have doubts about Mitchell Robinson, who I know that we got a nice health update on him yesterday, if they have doubts about his ability to come back and be a presence in the middle, I think they're going to go out there and get some sort of backup big man. And I don't know, does that mean trading away Precious Achua and some other salary? It's going to be tough because these guys tend to make a little bit of money, but I will say this. I think we're going to get a move. I don't know, and I think it's going to be more than just sending out Jericho Sims for a second round pick. I think they're going to do something. And Leon Rose, look, 4 trade deadlines. He's made 4 moves ahead of those trade deadlines, so I think he's going to make it 5 for 5.
All right, we got what? At the time we're recording this, we got what, 51 hours away from the deadline. So
Sounds about right.
In sports, especially with that Luka Doncic trade, anything can happen in pro sports, particularly in the NBA. Jonathan Macri, man, thanks for hopping on with us, my guy.
I always appreciate it. I especially appreciate it when this team's playing well, so I could have a big smile on my face. But thanks for having me on, and we'll talk again soon.
For sure.